Hey, welcome to week 4 of our Intro to Programming for Business Majors. This is an introductory Java course for business majors. And today we're going to start up on chapter 3, looking at things like if statements and stuff. So we're going to start off part 1. We're going to learn about if statements, if else, nested if statements, and the if else statement. Then part 2, we're going to get into logical operators, comparing string, more variable declaration, conditional operators, and the switch statement. Let's go ahead and start with the if statement. So the if statement decides whether a section of code executes or not. The if statement uses a Boolean. If you remember, Booleans are true and false. That's what a Boolean is. Whether the next statement of block executes. So if a condition is true, execute the next statement. Think of it logically like if you have the car key, then start the car. If you don't have the car key, you've got to go find the car. You get something else. So you can look at if statements kind of as a flow chart. If you haven't seen one before, a flow chart is a graphical decision-making tool. You'll see them a lot in business. So we're saying, is it cold outside? If yes, then wear a coat. Okay. If no, nothing. That's what no does, nothing. And we can see in the if example 1 here in our code here, and I'll just blow this up a little so you can see. And we've got a really simple example where I take a Boolean called cold outside, I assign it false. I say if cold, wear a coat. And then the next line's have a nice day. So if I just run this real fast, you'll see the output down here says have a nice day. So it does not say wear a coat because I had it as false. If I change this, however, to true, and remember in Java, true and false have to be lowercase, otherwise they won't be recognized. If you capitalize true, it's going to think it's a string. It's not going to realize it's a code word. And now, because I put the true, now it says wear a coat and they have a nice day. And also note that we got the escape n for the next line in this code here. So, in case you want to remember that one. All right. So we can make a block statement on that too. So instead of just a single code we put out, we can put out, if we want to put multiple statements in here, we've just wrapped them in curly braces. So you say if cold outside, then you put up curly braces. Everything inside the curly braces will get executed. All right. So beyond just doing what we did in that example where I just assigned cold outside to true, we can instead more realistically use things like relational operators. So relational operators are something you probably have all seen from math class growing up, but a couple of them you might not have. Greater than, less than, greater and equal to, less than equal. You probably saw them in school with the greater than sign with just a single line underneath it. This is basically the same thing. Equal, equal. That means equal to. In Java, if I were to say n equals 8, what I am saying is I want to assign the value of 8 to the variable n. However, if I said equal to 8, I'm asking is n equal to 8. So keep that in mind, that the double equal signs are when you're making a comparison versus a single equals you're assigning a value. Now, down here, the exclamation point equal sign, which in computer nerd terms is bang equal sign, this is not equal. So that's how you indicate something is not equal. Okay. And what we're doing is when we do these, the result is going to be a Boolean. So if we put up two numbers like x is equal to y, so if x is 10 and y is 5, x is greater than y, then the answer will be true. And if we had the same thing, 10 and 5, this answer is going to be false. So that's all we're looking at. So that's the answer and true and false based on the statement. Now we can make these statements here, and the outputs would be, hey, if x is greater than y, then give me this, print out x is greater than y. Equal, print out x is equal. Not equal, system. Notice this one here has these curly braces, even though it only has one line. Probably not a bad idea to get in the habit of it just because but you could put more than one line in here because of the curly braces. The rest of these, you can only have one line coming out on the end. Okay. Now, if we're looking at styling with if statements, remember styling is recommendation. It's not a requirement. The program will not break. If you wrote just on this all on one line, it'll work the same as this one. But what you're going to normally see in a styling thing, and most people will write, they'll have their if statement, and the line below will be the conditions that are going to happen if it's true. So just kind of to look like you know what you're doing doesn't hurt. So rule of thumb, conditionally executed statement should be on the line after the if statement. The conditionally executed statement should be indented one level. If If an if statement does not have a block curly braces, it is ended by the first semicolon. Okay. If it has blocks, then everything it is ended by the curly brace, so all the statements will happen. Without this, if you'll notice you did this one here, this statement will print based on whether or not this is true. So if this is true, statement 1 will print. Statement 2 and 3 are going to act up no matter what. They're going to be executed because they don't care about this if statement. So if this statement's false, then statement 1 will not go off. Statement 2 and 3 will. Okay. Boolean flags are variables that monitor some condition in a program. That when a condition is true, the flag is set to be true. So, common flags might be, login successful or, that kind of thing. And if it doesn't log in successfully, you won't let the person continue on further in the program. When the condition is true, the flag's set to true. And you can see it can be tested. If it's true, then that's a high score, Comparing characters. Characters can be tested using relational operators. Characters are stored in memory using Unicode character format. The Unicode is stored as 16-digit bit number. If you remember, we had it in that binary, so it looked like, this. Okay, characters are ordinal, meaning they have an order in the Unicode set, and it's all based on the ASCII set. Since characters are ordinal, they can be paired to each other. So if I set the C to A, and I say is A less than Z, this will be wrong. This will not print out. A is not less than Z because if you remember in the ASCII code, A was like 64 or 65, I forget. And Z is going to be another 26 characters down the line. But notice we're looking at capital letters. If I jump this over and check this out, and I move this over here. So let's just try that. Let's just say A is greater than Z, we'll say. And see what happens. And we'll run this. And we're just going to get have a nice day. We don't get the wear a coat because A is not greater than Z. Z has a large number. But watch this. If I go lowercase a, now it says wear a coat because lowercase a is like 97. So if you remember, look through your ASCII codes. That's what all these letters are assigned, and that's how the ordination comes. So keep in mind that a lowercase letter is greater than any uppercase letter as far as its ordinal value goes. Okay. Now let's go to the next step, which will be if then else statement. So we have this if statement here. We've already kind of covered this. If I got the keys, start the car. Else, go get the keys. Okay, that's what this statement's going to be. So what happens if this statement's false? Do we just not care? I mean, sometimes you just don't care. If it's not true, then don't worry about it. Don't run it. If it's not cold outside, don't wear a jacket. Don't worry about it. You don't have to put anything. But else, if it's, if there's another thing to look at, we got to put that else statement in there. All right, real quick, I'm going to go over this one too real fast before I go back to the division to go over the if then else. But I want to show you this one because we've got a couple examples here. We have one where if it's less than 40, we're going to print two things out because that's in the brackets there. Notice they're all using brackets, but I just think it's just a good habit personally. But what we're asking for is, we saw this too. We saw a new scanner. So you can clear it up here. We had to bring in the scanner. So make sure we're on the right. So we had to bring in the scanner, scan utility scanner, instantiate it. Remember the word keyboard is just a variable. And we're going to ask a question, what's the outside temperature? And the import's going to be a next integer, which we know means if I put in a string or I put in a real number with a decimal behind it, it's going to fail. So let's go ahead and run this and let's play with it for a little bit. So as you see what happens, if the temperature is less than 60, wear a coat. Less than 40, wear a hat and wear gloves. Less than 32, where water will freeze. If not, have a nice day. So we're just going to run this, run the file. I'm going to hop over to the output and we'll play with it. So let's start with 70 because with 70, nothing should happen. We should just get the have a nice day, which is exactly what we got. Let's run the file again. And now let's try 50. Now with 50, we should just get the first one, wear a coat. Exactly, just like that. Now let's try running the file again. And let's set it to 20. Now 20, we should get everything. There we go. Wear a hat, wear a coat, gloves, water will freeze. All right. So that's looking at multiple conditional lines there. Let's pop over now to our division here and see what we got. This again, this one's using a scanner too, so keep up in mind there. You got your Java utility scanner. We got a couple doubles here. These are division operands, and we got a double that's a percent change. You can put this all in one line. This is to put on two lines so you can comment what they are. Scanner keyboard. And from new scanner again, system in is that means we want input from our keyboard. System out, print, enter the sales last month. And we put in a number and we're looking for the next double. So this one's looking for, a decimal point. System out, print, enter the sales for this month, another double. If last month's sales equals 0, print since there are no sales last month, plus the percentage change cannot be calculated. Because why is that important? Because you can't divide by 0. Else, we're going to do a division. We're going to put this month's sales minus last month's sales divided by last month's sales times 100. So let's go ahead and we're going to run this. Let's go look at the results and enter sales for last month. Let's say we've got 125. Enter sales for this month, 99.13. And sales change by -1, okay? But remember, what was the thing? If we had the if statement was based on whether or not we had last month. So let's go ahead and run the file again, and let's make last month's sales 0. Okay, and we'll make this one 99.0. It's going to say, since there were no sales last month, percentage of change cannot be calculated. And again, that's our if statement. Last month's sales are 0. Okay, so there we go. Pop back over to our slide deck again. See what we got going on. All right. So that's the if-else. So if-else flowchart looks kind of like this. Is it cold outside? Yes. Wear a coat. No. Wear shorts. We have the last part we have is nested statement. So an if statement appears inside another if statement, or a single block is called a nested statement. A nested if is executed only if the outer statement results in a true condition. All right, let's go ahead and pop over to our code. Let's look at this lone qualifier and let's blow it up a little for you. Again, we got our scanner coming in. What are we looking at here? Let's start. I'll go down to here, bringing in a string input, character input, yes or no. That's what it's asking for. Recent grad, yes or no. So these are characters, not strings. Bring in a new keyboard scanner again. System out, print, answer the following questions with either yes or no to let people know that's what we all want the character. And so Y for yes, N for no. I'm using lowercase. Keep that in mind. If you use an uppercase, it's going to screw this up. Are you employed? Input ... Next line. Employed equals input char at index 0. So remember, the system input is a string. So to convert it to a char, we have to convert it to a character asking for the first character. System out, graduate college, yes. And then, so now we're going to go down to here. So if employed is yes, then we're going to ask if you're a recent grad. And then you qualify for this special rate, else you must be a recent college graduate to qualify. So that's this question. So here we are in the internal now. So this is all inside the first nested. So if yes, then we get to ask these questions. Else, you must be employed to qualify. So we'll skip this inner step. So you only do this inner part if this part is true, if the employed is true. Okay?